Hello. From the title of this video, you might be wondering why someone like me would spend their time and energy on making a video defending the safety of Nazis. By Nazis, I mean racists, white supremacists, white nationalists, fascists, and actual neo-Nazis. And the reason I'm doing it is because I'm interested in reducing the number of racists in the world and reducing the amount of racism in the world and in my own country and other countries, I hope. Although I doubt I'll make much of a difference, but I'd like to try anyway. So I believe that violence will not solve this problem, and I don't think it will help at all. I'm going to try to convince you that it could actually do some damage. So here are 4 reasons why I believe you should not punch Nazis. The first one is that not all of them are the same. They do not all want genocide. They're not advocating for genocide, although I don't find it hard to believe that some of them are. If you listen to what a lot of them say, and you don't have to believe all of it, but if you believe at least 20% of what they say, you can easily see that not all of them are interested in violence at all. They're not interested in killing anyone or committing mass murder on a mass scale. They're mostly interested in political change, dangerous political change, I should say, but it's not mass murder on a huge scale or on any scale at all. So to say that all of them want genocide, I believe, is simply incorrect, and it demonstrates a misunderstanding of racists that I believe is fatal to the cause of fighting racism. So to justify it by saying that they all want genocide is incorrect, because they have a very broad spectrum of beliefs among their groups. My second reason for not punching Nazis is that I believe it will actually make things worse in a way, or at least it won't help at all. And that is because I don't think hitting people is a very good way of convincing them. It's actually a really terrible way. It's a really good way of making them dig in their heels on their beliefs and to isolating them more from the side of truth and goodness. So to commit violence against someone is a really good way of making them hate you and to hate other people like you. It's a really bad way of making them like you and to make them want to listen to you. So if you want to change their opinions, and you should, then I think talking to them is a much better way of getting your point across. Violence will only make them feel less safe talking in public areas, which may be what you want, but I believe that talking to the general public is a really good way of forcing yourself to test your own beliefs against reality, which is against them. So when they do not feel safe talking in public, they will only talk to each other. They'll go back to their little echo chambers, their internet forums, and physical meeting rooms, and only talk to other racists who they know they're safe talking to. And that way they'll never have to confront their beliefs with science or with reason. They'll only have to talk to other racists who already believe them, and they'll only reinforce their own ideas by listening to the ideas of people like them, because they're not safe enough to talk to reasonable mainstream people about what they think, because they're afraid to. This also goes for people who are incredibly mildly racist, which might seem like a strange thing to say, but the kind of people who are just concerned about sort of the way things are going. Maybe they're a bit old-fashioned in their belief. If they don't feel safe talking in public about their views, then likewise they will only go to the hardcore racists to talk about their beliefs. I think where they will be welcomed with open arms. I assure you, the racists are not picky about who they take in. They're happy to add any number to their flock. So I think making it unsafe to talk in public is a really bad thing. Actually, keeping the conversation open is the worst thing for them to have to confront their beliefs with reason and science. My third reason for not punching Nazis is that I believe it admits to a certain a failure to debate them. So to commit violence against them is to throw up your hands and say it's not worth talking to these people, which I believe is not true at all. So I think that having a debate with a racist is a really good way, like I said before, it's a really good way of forcing them to confront their beliefs with reason, not just emotion. And reason can actually be a really strong thing. You don't need to do much to make a big difference to how they think. You just need to plant a seed in. You just need to plant a seed of doubt in their mind and in their beliefs, and the seed it'll nag at them, possibly for years, and it'll gradually wear away at some of their wrong ideas. So you don't have to convince them completely the first time you talk to them for it to be worth it. You just need to plant a seed, as I say. If you just say one thing in the whole conversation that is a real home run, it will really make a big difference. So it's also a really good way of expanding your own mind, which is a great side effect of trying to convert Nazis to reason, is that you'll actually become a smarter person for it, and you'll become a better debater, and you'll become better at thinking about these sorts of things. So I think it's a really good pastime is to go online and find people with abhorrent beliefs and just present them with facts that contradict what they're saying, because often they don't have facts at all, or the facts they do have are easily refutable. So to talk to these people is really it's a great way of spending your evenings, in my opinion, although it's not for everyone. But it is difficult because you need to know your stuff. You need to do some reading, and you need to be familiar with the literature. You need to be familiar with the sorts of things they're going to throw at you. And there isn't much. They always come back to the same studies and the same ideas. So once you've got a good idea of what they're going to say, which is usually the same thing as I mentioned, it's not too hard to refute it and, as I say, plant a seed in their head. So I think it's really worth your time, and it can be a really good time as well, in a way, especially when you feel like you've made a difference. But you do need a thick skin, because, as you might imagine from racists, they're not always the kindest of people, although they're not always evil either. So that's just my way of saying that please go and debate racists, because there really can't be enough people doing it. You always need more than we have. So my fourth and final reason, is that I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that the kind of people committing violence against people with abhorrent beliefs and ideas they seem to me to be demonstrating a huge misunderstanding of how evil works in people. So Alexander Solzhenitsyn, who wrote the Gulag Archipelago, had a great quote about evil. He said, "If only it were all so simple. If only there were evil people somewhere insidiously committing evil deeds, and it were merely necessary to separate them from the rest of us and destroy them. But the line dividing good and evil cuts through the heart of every human being." And he wrote that while living in the Gulag as a prisoner of his own country, and he was put there for writing private letters that criticized Stalin. So he saw things that were unimaginably evil. He saw the most evil acts that you can imagine, and he was living in the worst conditions. The Gulag is probably worse than anywhere you've ever been, and he had to live there for, I can't remember, somewhere between 10 and 20 years, simply for criticising Stalin in a private letter. And he, in the Gulag Archipelago, he describes these acts of evil that he saw going on in the Gulag and the evil in his country that allowed this to happen. And for him to write that there's no such thing as an evil person insidiously doing evil deeds is, I think, very powerful and really something to think about. The fact that he thought that everyone was capable of doing good and evil acts, and that all people had a certain amount of good in them that had either been suppressed or crushed out of them by their circumstances. So to assume that racists and white supremacists, calling them Nazis, by the way, is a really good way of getting this idea across that they're just evil, they're just a monster. All of them are monsters, and all you need to do is destroy the monsters and you win, and you're a hero for doing it. It's a complete oversimplification of the human spirit and the human acts of evil in the world, I think. And to really be able to fight evil in the world, racism in particular, but all kinds of evil in the world, you need to understand the fact that evil people are not just evil. They often have very good reasons, or they have very convincing justifications for doing evil things. They justify things to themselves, and they're often being manipulated by others into doing these evil deeds. So using fear is a good way of manipulating people into committing evil, and fear is a good way of inciting hatred as well, which I believe is a lot of what's gone on with these Nazis. So in order to reduce the amount of evil in the world, you really need to understand evil, and to say that all of these people are Nazis and that everyone who defends them is a Nazi is just too oversimplified and, I believe, incorrect. So in conclusion, my 4 reasons for not punching Nazis were that they are not all the same, they are not all as evil as each other. Some of them are far gone more than others. My second reason was that I believe it will not change their minds, and it might make them dig in their heels even more and make the problem worse. And the third reason... What was the third reason? The third reason is that debating them is a much better way of changing their beliefs, and they're more likely to want to debate you if you haven't just punched them. So debating is great for them and for you and for the world. And my number 4 was that you need to understand the nature of good and evil before you start decrying that some people are just racist monsters who need to be eliminated. And all of that is to say that when you commit violence, it's important to have a reason for doing it, a goal. You need to think about what this person's like now, what they're going to be like after you hit them, and what everyone watching is going to think of you, what everyone who hears about what you've done. Don't just think about how cool all your friends are going to think you are when they find out that you punched a Nazi. That's not the goal. Your goal is not to make yourself into a hero. The goal is to make the world better. And I believe that heroes make the world better. They don't just do things for the sake of... they don't just punish people for the sake of retribution and without thinking about the consequences of what they do. The important thing is to consider your purpose and the outcome. The outcome matters an awful lot in these matters. So please consider that when you either are thinking about getting yourself into a situation where you can commit violence against people with controversial beliefs. Think about it when you want to promote violence or celebrate violence against people that you disagree with, on social media or in person. And think about it when your friends are either committing violence or promoting violence or celebrating violence. Think about whether you really agree with what they're saying. And if you don't agree, tell them, because that doesn't make you racist for not being in favour of violence. It's important to remember that the world is not just divided into you're either with us or against us, because I really believe that there's a right way and a wrong way to fight racism. And if you're doing it the wrong way, then that's something that needs to be addressed. And if you know someone who's doing it the wrong way, maybe you should talk to them about it. And if you're worried that they're not going to like you after you say that, then maybe that's fine, and maybe you need to find some more open-minded friends. I wouldn't like to think anyone's life's been ruined just from speaking the truth. So just vocalize your opinions, and don't be a jerk about it, just try to use reason. A lot of people are convinced by reason, more than you might think. So that's kind of my overall message, is just talk things out, just keep the dialogue open, and don't spread more hate than there already is. Okay, thank you for watching.